As the new school year begins, the Black History Moments Committee felt that it is appropriate to replay the story of Ruby Bridges to remind our young people that they are courageous trailblazers too. Harry Belafonte, a well-known singer, songwriter, actor, and civil and human rights activist, wrote as an introduction to Through My Eyes by Ruby Bridges, "Nothing can be more moving than watching a small black child climbing the steps to her elementary school that historically and legally did not welcome her presence." Ruby Bridges had been called to perform an act of profound bravery, to become the black child in an all-white school. By this simple act of courage, Ruby moved the hearts and minds of millions of people. Is this what some white people are afraid of? Changed hearts and open minds? Instead, suggesting that it is offensive to have Ruby's story taught in school? Really? Here is Ruby's incredible story. Ruby Bridges was 6 years old when she integrated all-white William Frantz Elementary School in New Orleans in early 1960. She and 4 other first graders were the only ones out of 100 black children to pass an entrance exam given by the white school board. The test was so difficult that the board was hopeful that all of the children would fail, and thus they would have had a way to keep the school segregated for a while longer. Can you even imagine an entrance exam in first grade for only black children to go to a public school? 3 of the little girls went to another all-white school together. Ruby was the only one to go to William Frantz Elementary. This is how Ruby began her first grade school year. It was a difficult decision for Ruby's parents to have to make, but they did it. Her father did not want to participate in this integration process. He feared for his family. Ruby's mom thought that it was an opportunity for their daughter to get the best education possible. Mrs. Bridges stated that this move was needed not only to give my own daughter a better education, but to take this step forward for all African American children. This decision caused many problems for the family. Her dad lost his job. The family was barred from shopping at the grocery store where they always went. And even her grandparents, who were sharecroppers in Mississippi, were turned off of their land. None of this deterred Mrs. Bridges. She was determined to move forward. Every day before they left the house with the 4 federal marshals, they prayed. Mrs. Bridges had taught her children to believe that God was always there to protect them. As Ruby, her mom, and the 4 marshals got to school on her first day of first grade, an ugly mob had formed and was outside shouting obscenities and throwing stuff. The funny thing is that at 6 years old in New Orleans, Ruby at first thought it was all part of Mardi Gras and no big deal. As soon as Ruby and her mom entered the school, white parents took their kids out of school. These parents were encouraged by the state legislature, which passed a resolution calling for a boycott of mixed schools. All of the teachers, with the exception of Barbara Henry, refused to teach while a black child was enrolled. For one whole school year, Mrs. Henry taught Ruby as if she were teaching a whole class of students. This was beneficial for Ruby because she was able to receive one-on-one instruction. The fact that she had received so much individual attention did not sit well with the principal, who threatened to change her excellent grades at the end of the school year. In Ruby's book, Through My Eyes, she said, "I don't know to this day whether the grades were changed or not. But it didn't matter. The principal couldn't change what was in my head." Every morning as Bridges walked into school with the U.S. Marshals, one woman would threaten her and another held up a coffin with a black baby in it. One of the former marshals said she showed a lot of courage. She never cried and she never even whimpered. What courage! As Isaiah 11:6 says, "And a little child shall lead them." Ruby Bridges has gone on to become a wife, mother, civil rights activist, author, and the founder and chair of the Ruby Bridges Foundation, which promotes the value of tolerance, respect, and appreciation for all differences. She feels that racism is a grown-up disease and we must stop using our children to spread it. She now works as a lecturer, telling her story to adults and children. Thank you to Ruby Bridges Hall, the Bridges family, and Mrs. Barbara Henry for their courage. As the Bible says in Joshua 1:9, "This is my command, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go."